Call Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Kakudash, double honors to the elders and apostles of great millstone of the will. I am not a member, however, I have entered into their labors. Peace and mercy to the sincere brothers, sisters, students, whoever you are, whatever your lot may be. I want to say this is quick, but I don't know. We'll see. But I got some correlations that we want to pull up, a little news and precepts or something like that. I don't know. We'll call it something close to it. News and scripture. I don't know. Whatever. That's not important. What's important is the information. Okay. So as you can see, China beats the boy with this J-word level technology. And why do they call it that? Obviously, blind can see, lame can walk. Folks that were unable to do certain things can do them now with the power of their mind, or should I say with the left-handed power of the chip, or the CHIP, or the C-hip, or the injectable for the detectable. It merges with what's already dormant in you, okay, or what was at one point part of a regular function of a otherwise normal human anatomy. All right, so let's read through it a little bit, and then I'm gonna have to get rid of Grok, because the minute you start asking it anything real, now Grok is busy. Grok is overloaded. Come back later. So he gonna be a bitch ass nigga that we just gonna go ahead and go with the duck. So let's read through this here. We'll get before let's get the obvious, right? Let's get the main thing that we need to get every time. Every time. I do not care if you know it verbatim. Excellent. Straight to the point here. Revelation 13, and we'll start at 14 actually. No. We'll start at 11. From the jump. Okay, so the beast from the earth, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Right, and we always go into that. There are many other different parties. For some reason, people have like they're focused because they were programmed. All right. A message of propaganda of their mind was molded to only go between two polar, red and blue Democrat Republicans. So you have that here, okay? And he had two horns like a lamb, but he spake as a dragon, right? That draconian law that is coming here pretty soon, and we'll build up to that, right? Because first it's volunteer, first it's all about help, first it's all about popularity, and then when they don't get enough people to when they don't have enough zombies, then they will start to make this thing mandatory, or maybe they'll drum up some stuff. Maybe you start to see an increase in people getting in accidents that leave them paralyzed, or accidents that leave them, without some sort of function of whatever senses or extremity. Then they'll be like, oh well, here's the solution. The same way Killiam, Gates of Hell. There's these ticks, these Lone Star ticks, and it GOF, right? And if you've never seen any of my videos, GOF is an acronym for something that rhymes with ain of unction. So GOF, O stands for of. So you get it, right? Now you have that, and then these, which renders people allergic to animal products, mainly bovine. But the Impossible Burger has, or the Impossible Meat, quote, and I use that word meat with heavy quotations, and I very lightly. They're okay to eat that. So you see what I'm saying here? Well, let's go ahead and continue reading. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and all them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Who was that? That was Rome. This is Rome 2.0. Okay, same people, same Edomites. All right, in different dispensations of time, picking up where they left off, because the Lord is just. He allowed it. He allowed a bestial base, completely unintelligent tribe of, or nation with many tribes of, I don't know what to call them. You got two go rounds. and you just stinking up the field, effing up the earth. Anyway, and he doth great wonders, so that he maketh fire to come down from heaven in the earth, on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, right, left-handed, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, and saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live, right? Reviving that ancient Roman Empire. They love to say civilization started with the Greeks, from the so-called Greeks, because the actual Greeks were Japhetic people, dark-skinned, melanated Japhetic people who did all the inventions, who did all the art, who did everything that Greece has now, and then or had then when they were at their prime, at their height. And furthermore, it was just like Babylon is today, a huge melting pot of different nations, and most of their gods came from, from Mesopotamia to Egypt and up until now, right? Nothing that they have ever done in any dispensation of time, outside of make weapons that the only weapons that were forward for killing, right, for murder. It had nothing to do with helping the earth. The only he was the first artificer, but other than that, they've done nothing. All they done was come in, all right, and call the land by their name, and then call themselves those people, and then say that we invented it because we were those people. And you see, and there's a certain group, of folks that are doing that right now, in the so-called, what the white tea man calls the Middle East. So that's how you know a tree by its fruit. They do the same thing over and over and over throughout each dispensation of time, throughout each incarnation. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should be so both speak and cause as many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, right? And that could be physically or just cut out of society. And how does it speak? Well, hell, you go to this. Look at this. This is a portion of. This is a very small portion of it. Okay, freaking uh, Ducky, yo Duckster, and I asked it. Okay, I said there was an arms race and a space race in history. What other forms of races? Well, what other race from Ford, and I meant Ford dominance, am I missing? And it goes in to talk about these different ones here: space race. Obviously, we have arms race, industrial technology race. Okay, so and this will fall that China falls what we're just talking about here falls under this one, because this is the fourth industrial revolution where man and machine will be merged. And they gotta have a boogeyman, because if somebody else gets ahead of, imagine what they will do to us if we don't have the dominance. And then keep people generally in the times past, people will uh, um, be like, oh yeah, they will. If we if we don't do it, someone else will. All right, and an example is the Hormuz thing. They they don't want to agree to paying this toll, and they don't want the president to be set that allows Iran to have some sort of autonomy, because then other nations will say, well, if they can do it, we can do it. And there goes the dominance. There goes their fake supremacy, because you're not supreme if you have to do sneaky, underhanded tactics to stop others from just basically getting what belongs to them. Anyway, right? Resource race, access to oil, mineral. Okay, colonial, imperial race. All right, the expansion of empires, race for influence. Okay, AI race is another one. Scientific race, which doesn't really. Uh, well, I guess that could also fall into it, because they had that race for the cure, back in 2020. And now you have the space commercialization race, right? So these private companies are competing on how they're going to um, dominate. First, it was air superiority in World War II. Now it's some sort of atmospheric superiority, with the satellites and things of that nature. And if these devils are allowed to get into outer space, all they're gonna do is have an island, or it'll be a an Epstein planet or an Epstein rock, all right? And even more children will go missing every year from around all over the place. So he can, and then there'll be trash everywhere, and the rivers that were probably on those planets or on that giant rock that was drinkable will no longer be drinkable, and then it will decay, and then they will find another place to go, and it will just be the same old thing until the entire Milky Way is in ruins, because that is what they do. If they take peace from the earth, they will be, and the Lord allowed them to expand, they take peace from a galaxy. Now resources that were infinite are scarce from an entire galaxy. It'd be the same thing over and fucking over. And excuse my French, I'm sorry, but it's old. And I've said it before, right? When you first come in, you go, he's the devil, white man, the devil, blah blah blah. You gotta believe it. You kind of regurgitating. You monkey see, monkey do, right? First it's the parrot, then it's the monkey, then it's the toad, then it's the owl. The parrot just repeats what he hears, not what you understanding. The monkey sees and he does. The toad gets to a certain level of knowledge, but he ends up, falling in a stumbling block. And when we get that right, that's the parable of where the sower's parable. Where is that at? I know it's. Let me see. Matthew 13. Okay, so we'll go to. Let me finish reading this. And he calleth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that have it, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. What is the number of a man? And his number is 600 score. And you'll start to see a lot of things like 6 months away, 6 hours, 6 billion, 6 million, 6 tons, 666. House Bill 222. All right, you know what I'm saying? You feel me, right? Now let's go. Where did I say Matthew 1 or Matthew 13 is where we're at, that parable. And then when we're discussing the toad, I'm sorry, the parrot, the monkey, the toad, and the owl. Damn. Yeah. 13 and what? 13 and so the toad, you get to a certain level of knowledge, and then you no longer grow, you no longer have, the spirit kind of dwindles down because you let stumbling blocks offend you, and you're stuck at a level that you shouldn't be. So we'll get to some fell upon. So we'll just kind of read through it because that's not really the point I wanted to get. We're going to get back to the article, and then we'll get back to the DuckDuckGo prompt. All right, a great multitude were gathered together unto him, and he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had no deepness of earth. And I think that's kind of like where the toad would be. You don't really get that deep into things, and then you shoot up, and then you plateau. And when the sun was up, they were scorched. And because they had no root, they withered away. And that is the importance of the milk, the sincere milk, to establish your roots. And also, if the roots are shallow and you get a whole bunch of rain, then you get root rot. So either way, you're doomed, right? You try to take in too much fire, or heat or water, you wither away because you didn't strengthen the roots. And some fell on thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some an hundredfold, some 60-fold, and some 30-fold. And that's just some brothers have greater gifts than others. I know I'm probably the 30-fold, maybe the 20-fold, but you know what? I'm going to work with it. You understand me? I'm going to work with what I got and give thanks. All right, who hath ears to hear, let him hear. Okay, if you go through his explanation, Why speakest thou them in parables? He said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but to them it is not given. Therefore, there you have, everybody ain't welcome. And even the Israelites, even of the Israelites of the first go around, ain't welcome, not yet. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him it shall be taken away, even that he hath. All right. So we'll get. You can read the rest of that on your own. I just want to get an example, and I wonder if we can pull. Bear with me now. I guess it's the parrot, monkey, parrot. Okay. I guess you can't do it that way. You gotta type it out. Monkey, toad, and owl. Alright, so the folklore and wisdom traditions such as the Panchatantra, fuck, or Sufi tales, animals represent distinct human archetypes, right? The parrot symbolizes mimicry and superficial intelligence. The monkey represents restless ego. The toad or frog signifies narrow perspectives, right? And the owl embodies deep, quiet wisdom. Together they form a lesson on seeking true understanding, right? And I think you can interchange the owl with the serpent, okay? The serpent being, wise as serpents, harmless as doves. The owl, the deep wisdom, the owl is a creature of the night, known for seeing clearly into the dark. It symbolizes intuition, inner reflection, and the ability to see beyond illusions and quiet, cultivated wisdom. So when you get to the level of an owl, right, when the Lord says the days are shortened, though, the very elect, I'm sorry, I'm mixing two scriptures. The very elect. Helps to know how to spell. And damn. So 24 and 24, for shall arise false Hamashiachs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. But the very elect are giving the eye salve, right? That cone in the eye of the owl that allows you to see through the dark, and the dark means confusion. All right, see through dust, see through fog, see through the sleight of hand that these devils have. We'll get back to DuckDuckGo. Let's see what else is in this article, and then we'll get to it. But the point of this is, I want you to see there's always a race. There's always has to be a boogeyman, and with that boogeyman, they do little by little your freedom, or your whatever, your similitude of freedom, or things, your certain rights are taken away by legislation. All right, we need to write this law, because if we allow insert any other nation that isn't pale, unless it's Russia, we can't allow them to get ahead of us, because if they get ahead of us, imagine what they'll do. And all they're doing is projecting, because in actuality they come up with these imagine what they'll do isms, because that is what E does. That is what E will do. You cannot allow this mother. You can't allow him anything but to be in change. Anyway, coin size implant called NEO has become the first surgically implanted brain computer interface, or BCI, device to clear clinical testing for commercial use, according to the New York Times report. Developed by researchers in Beijing, Tsinghua University, and Shanghai-based Neuracle Technology. Damn, that's a lot of big words in one. The device is expected to enter mass production for China's state-run healthcare. And don't forget, you're right, the Tangerine Tyrant talks about, not only him, but what's his name? What's that? We are called the worst industrial revolution. Klaus Schwab, that's his name. Him. They said that China would be the model for the world. The first version of Neo is aimed at helping patients with spinal cord injuries and paralysis regain control over parts of their nervous system. But researchers, technology companies, and investors see brain computer interface as the beginning of a much larger shift in how humans interact with machines. The merging of man and machine, right? Brain computer interface, or BCI, allows signal generation by the brain to be converted into digital commands that control computer devices or prosthetics. And I wonder, do you gotta have a driver update for that? Like, how does that work? We'll never know. Doesn't matter. I am curious to know how it works from a scientific standpoint. I am interested in it, and a scientific and a technological standpoint. But in regards to any sort of real life application, no. Through the spirit and power of how about you, man? I let my faith remain intact, let my integrity remain intact, and let my no be my nay be nay and my yea be yea, right? Recording, restoring control of people who are tetraplegic, so I'm guessing they have nothing, right? What does that mean? Because tet isn't at 5, meaning, I guess, no senses? Or you can't, fuck it. Tetraplegic, meaning a person who has experienced paralysis of both their upper and lower limb, all 4 limbs as well as their torso. Holy moly. Dang. So you can't even you can't go from left to right. And if your torso, does that mean you can't breathe on your own? And sensation, fingers, hands, arms, chest, legs, and feet. Autonomic functions depending on the severity and height of the spinal injury. Yeah, see, you might probably, golly. Furthermore, it is a terrible thing to fall into the hands of a living power. That is hell. Off subject, but that is hell. Hell is a lower state. So when the scriptures tell you, fear not man, but fear him. I know you know where I'm looking for. Destroy. Probably because I didn't spell that right. And so, is that in hell? Yeah. Matthew 10 and 28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Rather fear him which is able to destroy both body and soul in hell. Now, if you're a tetraplegic, you are in hell. You can't do anything on your own. Nothing. So hell is not some place underground. Hell is a condition. God, boy, all the more reason to, right, when the scriptures tell you the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, is wise. Why would you go against one who has complete and total authority over everything in you, outside of you? What you can see, what you can't see. Omnipotence. So how does it differ from neuro? China's moved ahead more quickly in the design of Neo implant, unlike Neuralinks in one device, which requires electrodes to penetrate the brain's cerebral cortex. Neo is designed to sit between the skull and the brain. 8 sensors are placed against the dura mater, the brain's protective outer membrane, reducing invasiveness of the procedure. The implant captures brain signals and sends them to nearby computers where they are translated into digital signals. So how do you, there's your NFT and your then what's the other, these are communication protocols, wireless communication. So near field communication is what is used for payment. And then there is and then I guess radio frequency. RFI, maybe. Salakia, stay, bear with me. We getting different things, and I'm gonna leave these up because I want to read through the rest of this. But hopefully you sticking with me, man. I know we kind of jumping around, but the point is still being made. We're still on track. We just kind of making a couple of doing some side missions here. What did I say? So, see, similar. Yeah. Yeah, so it is. It's RFID, right? So protocols similar to NFC or near field communication appeal to the same underlying principles: short range wireless data transfer and inductive coupling. All right, so yeah, you have the RFID, the radio frequency, that will be also paired with the NFC or the near field communication. Near field communication, obviously, or I don't want to say obviously, but NFC is how you use your chip in your cards, right? You tap. And anytime data is communicated that way wirelessly, it has to be compressed, right? So you have to compress it, and it's transferred and then re-spread out again to basically affect what you want it to affect. So I wonder, how intricate is this thing gonna get? And if that's the case, somebody always has control, and that somebody ain't you. So that is a hard decision for somebody to make. Right. Especially, if they lose certain functions, and you have to come to grips, and you have the understanding. Right? Because remember, the Lord said there are those that would be, Lord, Lord, I did this in your name. And he says, get away from me. I know you not. And if you're not known, that means you are going to be put in the crosshairs of ye old injectable for detectable. Hard decision to make, ain't it? Now, we're not going to get into the technological things here. I don't want to take up too much time, and that's really not the point, but I'm going to skim through. Experts say brain interface could improve the lives of millions of people suffering from neurological disorders. Or, hell, you may not have anything wrong with you at all, but they may start saying, they may just come up with uh, something wild, like tryptomania, right? And if you don't know, I don't even know how to explain it. I think it's drapetomania. Was a fabricated pseudoscientific mental illness hypothesized in 1851 by American physician Samuel A. Cartwright. He used to describe the disorder, in quotations, of enslaved African Americans or enslaved Israelites who attempted to escape captivity. The term is derived from Greek roots meaning runaway slave and madness. Obviously, madness going for mania. So who's to say that Samuel Cartwright reincarnation ain't in, coming up and drumming up some new stuff, and then they'll put it in the colleges, right? Because they need to attack the minds of the children. And when you want to influence people, you do it through academia. You take the children away from the parents, and then you puppet this message into their mind all the way up and through the levels of a collegiate level, and then they take it as truth. You have whatever mania. But and you'll need to be removed from your insurance unless you accept this approved treatment. You see this motherfucker, this MF, this motor scooter is slick. When the scriptures tell you that the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, this is the subtlety. And then the very elect, those who are sincere, those who truly love the Lord, those whom He has blessed with wisdom, we come up with ideas like this because He allows you to peek into the mind of a beast. That is a part of the gift of wisdom, the gift of chasing wisdom, because she is harsh with you in the beginning, and we need to get that. Wisdom of Solomon, maybe, I think. But wisdom, she tries you first, and she'll put you through crooked straits. But the reward is to be able to keep your sanity while also being able to peek into the mind of a vagabond, a criminal, a thief. Let me find that. I need that. Actually, yeah, I need both of those. I think it's Wisdom of Solomon. It might be Ecclesiastes. We need to get that too. Wisdom will try you by her ways. Crooked path. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is 4 and 17. So let's go to that right fast. We'll pull that up. Okay. Ecclesiasticus, also known as Sirach 4 and 17 through 20. For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways, and bring fear and dread upon him, and torment him with her discipline, until she may trust his soul, and try him by her laws. Right? You need to be tried by all of this. All of this is to make sure that you are rooted and anchored. So when the Lord impresses a spirit on you to see in the mind of a devil, you don't lose your roots, right? Your roots, right? And didn't I tell you? It seemed like I was jumping around a little bit, Dave. That's the spirit. We back on track. You know what I'm saying? We here with it. Call all your mom, but now Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Then will she return to the straight way unto him, and comfort him, and show him her secrets. But if he go wrong, she will forsake him, and give him over to his own ruin. Observe the opportunity, and beware of evil, and be not ashamed when it concerneth thy soul. You know what I'm saying? Straight to the point. All right. But I think our point has been made. Let's see. There may be a little bit more we can get out of this, and then that'll be the video. Oh, Lord, I forgot about Mr. Duck. Duck, duck, go. Hacking may also enable them to impair a patient's cognitive function, such as the ability to concentrate. Hold on, brain input. Let me go up. May sound dystopian. That's because it is, but they are promising. They are a promising part of neuroscience research. He said. At the same time, he warned that devices could theoretically. Now, there's that little subtle word. Theoretically, they can allow hackers to access sensitive neural data such as patient through thoughts and memories. Hacking may also enable them to impair a patient. So if they can theoretically hack, that means there is a backdoor. You don't maintain control. Next thing you know, you paying a subscription to be able to twirl your goddamn fingers. Even manipulate motor signals and to affect how well they move. That's a scary prospect, especially if these devices become more common, he added. Despite a rapid progress, research also cautions that brain implants still face significant biological hurdles. But hey, what's that to eat? That don't mean nothing. Neuralink in one implant is currently being tested in 9 patients. One participant, Audrey Cruz, recently described the impact of technology he has already had on her life. I tried writing my name for the first time in 20 years. I'm working on it, she wrote. It's humbling to know my journey is helping Neuralink refine this technology, which could one day let millions control devices with their mind, she added. All right. What did I say? Okay, so I mentioned back to this point, all right, that there was always here's what I wrote. Okay, there's always some loss of freedom, okay, or something. So is it safe to say that throughout all of these historical races for dominance, that the achievement came at the behest of the commonwealth of said nations due to the consequential legislation? So then I reworded it. I meant specifically in the U.S. It seems like each race came with legislation that some would say, right, you got to word it correctly, cost certain freedoms. Yes, in the U.S., major national races, arms, space, industrial, tech, nuclear, cyber, etc., were commonly accompanied by legislation, funding, and policies that expanded state power or shifted civil liberties trade-offs, right? And that was the point of this video, is to, one, know a tree by its fruit, and two, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So every time there's a race, understand there's something you stand to lose. And now that you compare it with biblical prophecy, you can see where this is going. There is so many different avenues, right? So as you see, you can screenshot this, read through it on your own. Okay, short illustrative cases. Right. So bottom line up front, in the US or in Babylon, major national competitions have typically involved federal legislation and spending that increase state authority and can constrain certain freedoms. though effects vary by era, law, and how powers are used or overseen. So with that being said, I pray that you are edified. Keep your head on a swivel, keep your eyes open. Wise as serpent, harmless as dove, right? Shalom.